welcome to the Hank Russell invitation and happy Memorial Day weekend. So, tonight's guest, or should I say this afternoon's guest, I got to know this guy a little bit, around 6 months ago. You know, he's done a very fantastic job of this journey that he's been doing over the past 30 days. And I think he might be on 30 or 31 days about starting a 100K a month business and a lot of curiosity behind that. And we just talked recently, just a few days ago, and I was like, you know what, I got to know about this. And what a remarkable guy he is, and such a cool cat to be around. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest at this time, my friend Mr. Brandon Fortino. Brandon, hello, my friend. It's been a while.
What up?
What's going on,
What's
man? So
good?
we look, yeah,
What's up?
man.
What's up?
It's good to see you, man. All the you're hailing from San Diego these days, right?
Yes, sir. We are in San Diego. Sun just came out, so finally for Memorial Day weekend.
Oh man. All right. I meant to ask you, man. Like, I know that we got to talk, know each other a little bit, but how long have you been in San Diego?
San Diego specifically, I've been here for how many years now? Since 2018. So I think that's 6 years,
Yeah.
about 6 years. Yeah, originally I was from Bakersfield, California. So I lived there another 6 years. And before that, I was in Jakarta in Indonesia.
Yeah. I knew you were Indonesian American based upon your profile, but I didn't. I wasn't sure if you were. Were you actually born in Indonesia?
I was. I was born there and was raised there till I was 12 and I moved here.
What's the dominant language there?
We speak Indonesian actually. So Indonesian is our primary language.
See, I know that seems like I know. I just showed my ignorance towards that, but I had no. There's so many different cultures and stuff like that in around the world that you know just because somebody might be from a certain country like Brazil, their primary language is Portuguese, even though there's not really like Brazilian
Mhm.
leaders. Same thing here. It's not American. It's English. So
It's fascinating. I think there's a lot of facets in the world that they don't use English as their primary language. I think
so
the most dominant language in the world is Chinese, but because there's so many people
yeah,
in from China.
yeah, 1 billion people at least in the country, and the country is about what maybe 17% of the world too. So that's a pretty good bit of the world. I mean, maybe not that much. I mean, Russia. I might be thinking of Russia. Russia, I
Right.
believe. I think Russia might be 17% of the world. China's not far behind it though.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, oh man. So, what was the name of your company again? I know we just talked about this off camera, but what is the? Tell me the name of your company and to my audience.
Yeah, man. So I run a company called Short Form Pros.
Mm,
We are a creative agency here based in San Diego, and yeah, Short Form Pros, man.
yeah. And how long have you been? How long have you been with having this company for a while?
Yeah, so this company I started in late of 2022. So I remember it was October of 2022 when I started this creative agency.
Okay, 2022. So
Yeah.
it was kind of post pandemic, all stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah. So it was post pandemic. I actually just closed down my first company before that, which is a video production agency. So yeah, this is the second evolution of it, I like to say. Kind of like a second level of Pokemon.
I remember those days. You know,
Yeah.
so what intrigued me to bring, obviously it's good to catch up with you. That was the primary reason, but you've done this 30-day journey. What are you on day 32, 31 now?
We're on 32 now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw your post earlier, and you were at least admitted that you didn't put the effort every day, which or at
Mhm.
least let me rephrase that. You said you didn't post every day about it. You know,
Right.
that's I get it though. I mean, maybe it's just me, but whenever I hear a lot of content creators and stuff like that, especially like people in certain aspects of entrepreneurship, they always talk about, man, you have to grind every day. You know, you got to do it every day. But I don't know how honest they are about the fact that, you know, there are days where you have other things you have to do, like go grocery shopping and run errands, and you just don't have time that particular day. And they want to kick people down when they're like, "Oh, well, you missed a day. Well, you did the you did the incorrect thing. That's you're such a failure," type thing.
Totally. I think it's very interesting in my opinion how, to me, I see it as a documentation, right? That's what I think people don't realize a lot of times. Like at the end of the day, you are the creator. So you have the ultimate power on like deciding what cadence you wanted to do it. And I admitted it. I was like, hey, like the goal was to post every day, but I realized that posting for the sake of posting might not be the best idea. So that's why I had to regroup, re-strategize to like what kind of content do I want to create? Where is this vlog going? Because you know, I like the saying, it's like if you don't have a target to aim at, then you don't know when you're there, when you're achieving it. So uh that was the thing that I had to like rethink about that vlog again, which I know I'm still gonna be doing it. I'm still gonna be posting the journey and the progress of it. And I'm glad that people actually follow it along and like it. But yeah, I think there's no shame in like, at least in my case, that's saying like, hey, like I did miss a couple of days, and I think if anything that makes you looks more relatable, even more real. So that's kind of like my 2 cents on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the concept I read in the bio and stuff like that about being from invincible or invisible to invincible type thing. And I'm assuming, well, you know, we could take the
Yeah.
invincible part. We could take the invincible part out, but the invisible part, you know, I'm assuming you're wanting to help people to where they get noticed. You know, they stick out like a sore thumb, so to speak.
Exactly. 100%. I think so. To backtrack the story behind it, when I came to the US, I studied a lot in the art of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal at the end of, like back then, was actually to work for Hollywood. Disney and Pixar was my like top 2 companies that I wanted to work for. So I studied them day in and day out. When I went to college, I studied business. And what I ended up realizing is like after, getting my jobs early on, like my 9 to 5 jobs, like a lot of businesses don't really know how to separate themselves. That's part of the stuff that they want to do, because that's how, there's 1,000 realtors out there. How do you become the one, right? Or there's 1,000 restaurants. There's 1,000 Asian restaurants out there. How do you be different? And that's where that saying kind of came from. It's like the invisible to invincible, because when you're just out there in the shadows, like nobody really know who you are and what you do. And sometimes using a platform like what we're currently doing, the live streaming platforms, the content platforms, that's one of the best and most leveraged way for you to be able to literally tell people about it, right? Because if I were to walk around my neighborhood and try to promote my restaurant, knock on 1,000 doors, and it could take me like 4 hours to do that, or it can take me an hour to make one really good video, and I can get to 1,000 virtual doors if you think about it. So
Yeah, the analogy that I used years ago is that I, I'm trying to think of. Give me a second here. What's the analogy? Okay, if I have a coffee cup full of blue, 9 blue ink pens, and I drop a red ink pen in there, which one are you going to notice when you first look at the coffee cup? The red ink pen. And that's what you're
mm,
trying. That's one of the things that you have to do is that, you know, you've got so much saturation out there, and you need to figure out how to stand out as far as being, you know, maybe not necessarily better, because all those ink pens are the same length, they do the same purpose, but one's just a different color, and he's the one you're going to grab out of the cup. So,
right.
you know, that's the
It's
analogy.
that's all it takes to separate yourself, really.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, and that's the hardest part is that it's such a simple concept, but you know, figuring it out is the question. You know, what do I do in order for me to
Right. And
catch this person's eye?
For sure, and I think that's part of the journey as well, right? Because I mean, as you know, as a content creator, in the beginning, we probably have 3 to 5 people that we look up to the most, and we create content based on what those people that we admire, right? We try to copy their styles, we copy their way of speaking, and eventually you'll get to the point where you'll figure out your own way of delivering those messages. And that's, I think, is the beauty of it, how everybody have the opportunity to separate themselves. No matter how common the niche is, no matter how common the things that you do, there's always a way that makes you different because everybody is different. There's no two humans alike, you know?
Yeah, and and I'm amazed that you're able to take up a challenge like that and trying to make a pretty successful business out of it as well. And I applaud you for it. And you know, I love how it was like a 30-day
Thank you.
challenge, but you didn't mention that you were going to stop at 30 days. You're here on 32 and you're still going. Like, and there's some honesty behind that too. It's like, well, wait a second. I said this was a 30-day challenge. Did I make it in 30 days? No. But, is that going to stop me because I didn't get it in 30 days? No. You know, there's nothing is going to happen in a day. It's a day-to-day process.
Right. I think that's one of the biggest shift that I started realizing with, getting very clear on that goal. Um, you know, the reason why I pick 100K per month, that's not like it's just an arbitrary numbers or, obviously like the numbers don't really matter. But I know that by having a goal was so wide, like just by perspective, that's something that probably me and my whole generations before me never have done before, right? The goal is so large that it made me rethink about the things that I need to do to get to that goal. And I think one of the biggest things that came out of it is instead of focusing on the actual, like the money aspect to it, but it's more of like, what can I do every single day to make sure that I'll be growing every day? Kinda like that rule when it says, like, 1% better every day. Because if you do 1% better every day, by the end of the year, you do, like, I think, like, 1,600% better. So if I can just focus on what is my daily workflow looks like, staying disciplined on that, uh, I I my theory is that that's where I'm gonna see the most change happen.
Right. And I love how you don't put an emphasis on the number, even though, there was kind of this challenge behind it with a number on it, but you're not necessarily just fixated on this one particular number. Because, and for those of y'all
Right.
out there who aren't entrepreneurs, he talks about, let's say he does hit the 100,000K a month, right? That's 1.2 million a year. That still puts, people like there's a lot of younger people out there. Well, that makes him a millionaire, and I'm like, no, not really, because Uncle Sam, he's still got to get his 30. What is it? 30, well over 30%.
Something like that.
So there's no need to be fixated on the money, the number of the money exactly, as long as you're able to do what it is that you do for a living. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with nowadays is doing things for a living and things that they're actually good at, really. I mean,
Exactly. I used to I'm a big gamer. I used to play a lot of video games, a lot more than I was supposed to, probably back then. And I used to play a lot of like those RPG games, like Skyrim, whatever, like those type of games, right?
mm-hmm,
Where I like to see myself like, okay, if you're a character in this game, like you have XP points, and those XP points from the things that you do, you'll increase your skill points. At a certain level, you might achieve, oh, you get a new tricks that you can do. You can now use a better weapon, or you can fight, whatever, right? You get a new side quest that you can now go to. That's kind of how I see it. It's like
mm-hmm,
the money and the 100K per month, it's kind of like one of those things that you unlock when you get to a certain XP. So my mindset is like, what kind of activities do I need to do to focus to get the most XP as fast as possible? That's basically how I think about it. And when I gamify it like that, it makes it kind of interesting because now you're not about the golden sword that you're gonna get after getting to a certain level, but it's more of like, what do I need to get now to accumulate this XP points in a way? So
mm.
I know. Yeah, if you're a gamer, I can geek out with you at any day.
No, I get it, and believe me, I've had two gamers on my show before, and so I understand the concept. And for the record, Brandon, it may hinder you from your goals, but it's a way cheaper hobby than what the world was like before the pandemic, man. I noticed that when people got more into video games during the pandemic, that a lot of people saved a lot more money. You know, hawking up $60 for a Nintendo Switch game as opposed to like going out to their favorite night spots. You know, several nights a week.
Yeah,
So yeah,
for sure.
absolutely, absolutely. Let me go to the audience real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Let's see here.
Who we got at the party right
All right,
now?
what's going on, brother? Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So yeah, we just so all right. So I'm trying to think of trying to think of the next gear here. You know, so who's the people you've worked with in the past? Is like mostly real. You said you were telling me on the phone like real estate. Is that a big one?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of real estate people in the past,
Okay.
currently still as well. So I have like people like real estate investors,
Mm-hmm.
commercial brokerage, but then I also have somebody that's kind of like on the other side where I have a sports betting company that we work with. That one's a pretty exciting one because I didn't know anything about sports betting. So he actually approached me because he saw a LinkedIn post by Stephanie, that kind of talked about my services. But
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things that, like, all right, they seems like they're a good fit. I don't know anything about the niche, but let's dive into it. And they never done any shorts before on YouTube. They've already have like 170,000 subscribers at the time on YouTube. Never done
So
any
you're
shorts. So we came 10,000 views, 15,000 views, stuff like that. But yeah.
so this guy was like what, a sports betting consultant?
Yeah, so they're actually the biggest sports betting community in the US. It's called Pick Dogs. Shout out to them. But basically, like the idea is like they are in a way a consulting for sports bettors. They give out picks that you can pay for, and they do give out free picks for people that are actively betting. I didn't know that it was actually like a huge market that people are doing. It's kind of like the stocks market. People trade, stuff. They see it as like an investment. So very interesting.
I'm a sports fan, and I don't really. I know the analytics based upon numbers and stuff like that. But here's the thing, I don't have the nerve, so to speak, to bet on these sports gambling bets because I'm not sure that I'm paying attention as closely as probably my as somebody like these guys because there's a thing about okay, I'm a sports fan, but I'm not obsessed to the point that it dominates my life. I mean, if I was, I know a lot of guys that are so obsessed with sports, they would not be able to do things like what we do on these contents and streaming and stuff like that because,
Hmm.
you know, and being a sports fan and being a music fan and all that stuff doesn't really define me 100% as a person. So,
Right.
because,
I think it's interesting because the way they look at it, it's like some of these people, they're more of like just they're more of like, in my opinion, they're kind of like traders instead of it being sports fans. Like, yeah, they enjoy sports, but I like to look at it as like there's a difference between someone that enjoys just watching Yahoo News about business and someone that actually do stocks trading about the companies.
yeah,
That's kind of how I see these people of like, they don't just watch the sports for just the enjoyment. They watch it to make a profit. So that's how they they have their business, which is very cool. I think I had no idea that was such a whole
I
big
need
thing that's happening.
I need to get one of these sports betting guys on on my show here. That would be a very interesting topic to talk about.
Oh, I bet. I mean, he's like the CEO and the founder. He's like very well known in the sports betting industry, and you can talk about a lot of things. And then whenever I meet up with him, just like I just learn something new about anything. And I don't personally bet on sports either,
No,
but definitely watching their content, I'm like, that's very interesting
is
because
this
they aim to get to like 54% of winning, kind of like they aim to win 54% of the time, which technically beats the house. So I was like, wow,
Yeah.
fascinating world.
Is this guy big enough that he wouldn't come on my show?
Worth the ask. I think it was worth the ask.
Yeah. Well, if you got contacts, I'll have him on my show.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. His name is Mitch Wilson. He's a great guy.
Mitch
He's from
Wilson.
the East Coast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when we get off camera, we'll have to exchange. I'll have to see if I can get
Yeah,
his
yeah,
number.
of course.
But that's interesting because, like I said, I mean, like I said, even though I love sports, it's not. It doesn't define me as a person.
Mm,
I want to know from somebody who is so DNA has their DNA ingrained in this because you obviously have to be able to risk money and to give people advice and things like that. So, oh man,
yeah. And that's what I love. I feel like with content too, things that we do is like, we have people that are real estate, sports betting, all these. We even had like a private jet pilot at one point.
mm,
Like, since we are at the charge of broadcasting their message
yes,
out to the world, we're kind of like getting into that learning of what they actually do too. So it's kind of like we're at the verge of the transfer of knowledge, which I personally enjoy because it keep me kind of interested. I'm like a huge, oh, what are we learning about today? Like I like learning new things all the
yeah.
time.
I love talking to people that create value in other people.
Yes,
This is a big thing. I don't. There are so many different ways you can create value in other people, even if it has nothing to do with money. There's so much
correct,
out there.
correct.
I'm hoping to do some more human interest pieces in the future.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and there's a big world out there right now that is truly suffering, and I think that any way we can that if I could reach one person, I'm good. You know, and of course,
Right,
and if you're talking about for growth and business purposes, then it could snowball into something else. You know, it could compound.
for sure. And I think that's what's interesting. Like, one of the biggest perspective shifts that I've learned by, you know, throughout my entrepreneur, I guess, like era, is that it's not about like the money. Like money is not even a thing, it's just a currency that we exchange. Truly the thing that we provide is the service for a higher level of being, right? So let's give it an example, right? Like people can get from point A to point B. I can go from where my house is to the supermarket by walking, right? Like, yeah, I can walk there every single day whenever I need to buy groceries, but I could save a lot of time if I were to have a car, right? And that time I can use to spend, for myself. I can watch, things that I like to do, watch movies or whatnot, or I can spend it with my family, or I can do many other things with that time, right? So because of that exchange, I'm willing to trade my money for the convenience of being able to go to groceries instead of it being like 30 minutes of walking one way to make it like 3 minutes of driving, for example. Right. So I think one of that biggest revelation is like, okay, the question now becomes how can I, how can we help each other in one thing or another? And that's really what is defined as value, right? Just how we create value in the society. Because I think for the longest time I've had this mystic of like, what is the word value? Like, what does that mean? And at the end of the day, it's just for me, I define it as it's something that will help another human being or a group of human beings get to the next level, whatever that looks like,
Right.
in their happiness, in their belonging, in a sense of love, in a sense of enjoyment, fulfillment. That's where value is created. So I think it's a very fascinating frame shift on that
Right.
side.
Exactly. And that's in my three big main you know viewpoints or whatever you want to call them for success in life and financial. Not just like I said, we're not focused on money in this conversation all the time. But the number two rule is that you have to know how to create value in other people. You really do.
Right.
That's one out of three things that I tell people all the time how to be successful. And whether I'm there or not, maybe as far as success goes, I can try to practice as I preach, but hopefully somebody out there is wiser enough to actually do it.
Mhm. Totally. And I mean, being like having a podcast like this is one of those examples, I think, of providing those value for other people. You are sharing these messages to other people,
Mm-hmm.
and those are value that somebody can learn from, somebody can listen in, or just hang out for a good time, right? So that I think that's
Yeah, exactly.
like, everybody's here to help each other out in a way.
Right. Well, I mean, and there's going to come a point with some of my shows where I talk to guys that probably do not change the world, so to speak, but they're just entertaining to have around. And everybody could have
Of
everybody
course.
could
Yeah.
have time here and there on my show where they're like overly entertained, or I'm not a big component of interviewing comedians, but if somebody can make the audience laugh the whole time, then that might be some value there as well, as far as like taking them away and they're gracious enough to watch my show. But I'm not a big component of interviewing comedians at this point in time. There's only one that I have interest in, and but it's such a dark time in comedy right now, so I'm good.
Oh, really?
Did you
Why
watch
is that?
did you watch the do you ever you've heard of Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp, haven't you?
I have not actually. Tell me more about it.
Okay, well, okay, and and that's what I love about you, man. You're not, I don't, I know about it because people at my work all the time talk about it. But so Shannon Sharp was a famous tight end for up until about 20 years ago, and he's a sports analyst on ESPN. He has his own podcast show called Club Shay Shay. So he had
Mm.
Cat Williams on there about 4 months ago, and Cat Williams absolutely destroyed like all the comedians around him, and you know he was just talking negatively, and you know I'm not saying that the stuff that wasn't true or anything like that, but it was all like straight gossip and just absolutely snowballed into this effect that's been going on with these comedians, that they're all bad mouthing each other and talking about joke stealing, uh, and it's snowballed from not just famous comedians but lower comedians and stuff like that. And now it's kind of a dark time for the comedy space. It's really ridiculous, and I don't like to get caught in that kind of drama. Well, I wouldn't mind. I don't mind talking about controversial things like that, but it's I don't like to get into a lot of gossip, and that's what's been going on around here.
Mm.
So because
Interesting. Yeah, I did not know that. Wow.
it's dumb to me. Everybody's it's the most viewed video. The Cat Williams Club Shay Shay interview is the most viewed video on YouTube right now. Like it beat out Joe Rogan. Joe
Well,
Rogan had the one about talking about aliens a few years ago, and it was, and now with over 60 million views, the most talked about interview of all time is Club Shay Shay now with Cat Williams, and all came from negative gossip.
oh wow. That's so interesting.
And
Huh.
that's one of those things that makes me like want to put my fist on the table and just like, is this what it takes? Like, is this what it takes to get this many, get this much content and or excuse me, or get this many views and stuff like that? Is that I got to talk bad about people and be negative all the time? I don't want to do that.
Yeah. There's other ways to do that, it doesn't have to be negative per se.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a video podcast called Soft, or video channel called Soft White Underbelly, and it's a lot of human interest pieces and stuff like that. And they do pretty well. Some of the stuff
Okay.
makes it extremely creepy and really, very kind of gross in many aspects, but they also, show, people with, human interest piece type stories of all kinds. So there's more.
Mhm.
You may not have the number one video out there, but you can make something out of it without having to be so controversial or gossipy or negative all the time.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, interesting because um we came up with this framework that I think so far has been working pretty well. That basically, a lot of people always try to figure out like how do I gain that many eyeballs, right? Like how do we gain quote unquote virality, right? And for
Mm-hmm.
the longest time, I paid for courses. I went to like events, trying to figure out what it actually takes. And I kind of boiled it down to these three things. I call it the COS framework, like the
Okay.
cost framework. I don't know if you've seen my video about that. Did you see my video about
I
that?
did. That's why I was kind of cracking a smile. I was like, yeah, I know where you're going with this. But go ahead.
Yeah, but it's like for your audience, I guess it's controversy, opinions, and shock factor. So, and the way I define controversy, it's always like it doesn't have to be negative. It's always something that typically goes against the grain. For example, I know like one of a realtor can say you should not buy a house in your 20s. You should not buy a house as fast as possible. Like that's the wrong way to do it. That's kind of goes against the grain, and that'll get more people to watch it. And if you can combine that aspect of controversy, opinions, and shock factor, I
Yeah.
think that's where the millions and multiple millions views, uh, you know,
Yeah.
disregarding memes, typically,
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with it if it's within a safe context. You know, you don't want to put yourself in a circumstance where you might, suffer
Correct.
some physical backlash and stuff like that. That's what I'm afraid of sometimes. But stuff like that is don't get me wrong, it's good,
For sure.
but I like the one you just put up about an hour ago about the Guinness Book of World Records. Like the name Guinness, I didn't. It didn't even occur to me to think about it relating to an Irish beer. It's like I didn't think about that because the name's been around my whole life. You just kind of think of it as, you know, when you make a reference towards breaking a record, you always think of the name Guinness. So stuff like that interests me way more.
Yeah, that's I love talking fascinating stories. There's also one that's about like Michelin stars,
Hmm.
restaurants. I don't know if you know about that one, but usually when like that was a story from the tire company Michelin, and Michelin needs people to basically like get more, sales in their like, I guess their tires sales department or whatnot. So they came up with a marketing campaign of Michelin stars restaurants. They would go around and rate restaurants, right?
Right.
And the whole purpose of that marketing campaign is that when they release that, they want people to travel from restaurants to restaurants. And then the more they travel to go eat, the more they'll use the tires and the more they need stuff. So that's like one of those Guinness and Michelin stuff like that. It's very, very, I think that's a fascinating time in the world of marketing as a whole.
No, I love it. Stuff like that fascinates me way more than like negative controversy. It makes a longer impact. It's a cool conversation
Oh,
piece to have
yeah.
with strangers that you just meet. All that stuff. It's such a beautiful thing.
100%.
And not to discredit people that love the type of controversy like I described with Michael Williams, but there's a lot. I like a little bit. It's a little bit more intellectual too. It's fun but intellectual to know about these things and the positive things of the past.
Right. Focus on the positive.
I'm telling you, I'm never going to get anywhere talking. I don't think we'll get anywhere talking about positivity. But I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
I think there's a way.
I think that it's just like anything else. I think that my analogy about the coffee cup and the pins, I think that's the best way to look at it. If I'm going to stand out by being positive, because there will come a day where, excuse the expression, get caught with my pants down and say something controversial, and then I might have a viral moment from it, and then I have to say, "Wow, what was I thinking? I wasn't thinking before I speak. My filter was busted. I apologize," and will actually mean it.
Yeah. And sometimes I think too that's in my opinion, like creating content, it's like being comfortable that somebody's gonna have a different way of life.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have a different perspective and they're not might not be agreeing with you. You know what I mean? And I think that that could be just part of it.
Right, and that's the hardest part about, unfortunately, about this decade about not agreeing with people is that they kind of make you pay for it, though. We're getting a little bit away from that now,
Mm.
but they make you pay for it if you don't agree with them. It's like, you can't forgive easy. But I think that that kind of statement I just made might be more 2021, 22, because I feel like we're getting away from that more.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that Like when we were up at Creator Camp together, there was such a melting pot of personalities and backgrounds and stuff like that. And everybody had one thing, but the reason why that everybody probably had no problems at all, there was no problems at all up there, was that everybody had one goal set aside, and that was to be successful in what it is that we did. And we all took care of each other and helped each other out and, used our strengths when that might be somebody else's weakness. And that's the biggest thing is that if we just come together more often, then these sort of conversations where we may not always agree with each other may not even matter if we're working towards the same goal.
For sure. And I would love to like just give a shout out to the eCam team because that
Yes.
honestly, I have like they did a really good job establishing that like expectations coming in forward
Mm-hmm.
of like, hey, we're here all to help each other out and learn towards the same similar goals, basically, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, honestly, it's because I never gone to an event like that before, and honestly, I'm glad that I did go, and it's the the I've gone to a lot of events that are kind of like feels like it's a copy of one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
and it's for that specific creator camp event. It felt like one is different. It's the red pen out of the blue, and the way just they carry it is it's like I've felt so like okay, everybody here is on the same page. Everyone's good. Like that fascinating. I never felt that way before. That's really cool, and that's how we met.
Exactly. And I cried. When we were about to leave. Remember the last day in the brewery, right? We're getting the pictures taken. We're doing the session with Fulgens and Anna, and man, I remember like during the brewery thing, I'm like, this is the last time we'll all be together. This trip, and are you going this year?
I'm planning on it. Yes.
Okay, I'm planning on it as well. I've already bought my ticket, but I hope I don't have to cancel. But uh, you
Yeah.
know, I I found out though, that at least 66 people that went last year coming back this year. So, and
Wow.
I found that out, and I don't know if, but I'm hoping that because I know Stephanie's she's one of the teachers again, right?
I think so. I think she's locking that in. I'm not entirely sure yet, but yeah, I think so.
I haven't talked to Stephanie in a while. Like obviously I comment on her videos and stuff like that, but I don't just go around DMing and talking to her unless I have a question because that's disrespectful. But um, I need to talk to her anyway because I might get her to be on my guest on this show as well. But
Yeah.
the only reason why I haven't invited Stephanie yet is because I promised I would read her book and I haven't read it yet.
Oh.
I haven't read it yet. I just haven't. I know that I'm making excuses, but I just have not had the mental fortitude combined with time to do it yet.
mm, yeah.
I know. I try not to make excuses and stuff like that, but it's just man, that's the one thing about it is that you kind of have to write down and schedule certain things that you're going to do or make a habit of.
Yeah.
Because
It's
I do my my morning quiet time. I do it almost
yeah.
every morning. I do it almost every morning. Literally.
That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I do my morning quiet time and just so I've got a routine of these things. I just need to set aside 30 minutes a day or 15 pages of a book to read Stephanie's book because I'm a pretty avid reader.
Yeah. I that's. I mean, I think you hit it in the points there. It's all about like putting it into the daily task. Like
Mm-hmm.
I recently also just finished like the 75 hard challenge. Have you heard of that one?
I have, but I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, so basically for 75 days, there's a set of rules that you have to follow. I believe it's like you have to work out twice a day, 45 minutes each. One of them has to be outside, follow a diet, no alcohol, read 10 pages a day. Um, what else is a couple of other ones? Workouts. Oh, there's a couple more that I'm missing. Oh, you have to take a picture every single day of your growth.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot. But anyways, uh, I used to like kind of have like similar things of like, I have all these books in the back here that I've been wanting to read, but I was like, I never put the time into it.
Yeah.
And when I did that challenge, I finished the whole 75 days. Is all right. I need to make the time for reading 10 pages. So I made it almost to myself that like I can't go to sleep if I don't read this 10 pages. And sometimes I would be in bed just like reading 10 pages, like, you know what I mean? I'm like trying my best to like just read it, get the 10 pages in, take a little bit of notes here and there. But I think it's interesting when you put it as a part of your day. Kind of like my vlogging now is like, all right, I have to put it in the day. Like whatever happens is I need to at least talk for a minute, 30 seconds to a minute, something that happens today,
Yeah.
whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like almost kind of making it a non-negotiable in a way. But yeah, that challenge has me helped me a lot on building that workflow.
Yeah, and I heard everything you're saying, but I couldn't get it out of the back of my mind. A workout twice a day, 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's workout twice a day, 45 minutes each. One has to be outside.
I would rather do it all in one session, though. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to do 45 minutes twice a day. I can't. I'd have to do it in one session. I'd have to set aside an hour and a half and then do it.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't specify that it has to be separated.
Yeah.
So on most of the days, again, I just did like all together in one session, basically like an hour and a half session.
Mm.
So like, it's one of those like little details that like, all right, how much of this are you going to like actually follow? There's like super crazy people that are like, it has to be separated or whatever. I'm not one of those people. I'm just like, I'm using this to train my discipline. And I wanted to read more. I wanted to make sure I give time for myself.
Mm.
Because in the beginning, when I was building my first business in the video production space, literally like I'd get so burnt out. Like I would work from like 8 in the morning till like 11 o'clock at night because I was doing everything by myself. So how do I build a time where I can, also have some time for myself too and my growth? That's part of is my biggest takeaway from that challenge.
Yeah, I get it. It's though that's an excellent book. Or I'm assuming it was a book or a pamphlet or something like that. Is that right, or is it just a? Is it just? I mean, it's probably not more than like a 75-page book, right?
That's funny because like I think it's actually a book, but I've just heard the challenge so many times. I didn't even read the book. One day I just like, you know what? I'm gonna do it tomorrow. I just like I was going to bed. I was like, I'm gonna start this tomorrow. It's a random Thursday or whatever. And I think there's a book for it. I just never read it. I
Yeah, and that's good. As long as because you know, I know that it's hard for a lot of people because they have full-time jobs and stuff like that. They don't have
yeah.
like, do you do what you do full time?
Yep. It's full time.
Believe me, that would be a dream of mine to be able to do something like that, to be able to do, work for myself and do stuff like that. But I don't. I have a job during the day just like anybody else, and
Yeah.
the idea is to get that excuse out of your head to do those things because it has nothing to do with your job. It has to do with what you're not doing when you're not working. Like, read 10 pages, workouts, all the other stuff
Yeah.
you said. So I think it's doable for me, and I encourage it. I'm just implying that a lot of people with full time jobs and kids and stuff like that, they might use the full time job as, well, I'm here a certain amount of time, so I don't have time at home to do this, and maybe working out's not your thing. You know, maybe 45 minutes,
Totally.
maybe 45 minutes one time during the day is fine. Maybe doing 10
Totally.
push-ups a day when you were doing zero yesterday. I mean,
I love that.
yes,
It's the progress that you make, right? It's like the actual action that you take. I think there's no one set right way to do it. Like sometimes on some days, like on my outdoor workouts, I just go on a walk. That's it. Or sometimes I take Stephanie on a walk. I count that as a workout.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like it's not so much. I mean, it is obviously the action of it, but it's more of like how your mind perceives it as like this is important. You know what I mean? Uh, that's yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
no, no, I get where you're coming from. I mean, the thing about it is like I said earlier, people always use that term. This is not a sprint. It's not a. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. That's a good
Mhm.
one, but I like mine. Nothing happens in a day. It's a day-to-day process. If you do something every day, and even if you're kind of, let's say you're trapped, like you're doing 10 push, like the idea is to do 100 push-ups, but you're stuck for like a month doing 10 push-ups a day. at least you're doing the 10 push-ups a day because you're not doing anything at all, but you have to progress and grow as a person. And that's one of my two that's that's the second point of my remember when I told you I had three ideals for what it is to be successful, and this is not my invention, it's stuff that I've read. And the first
Yeah.
and number one is you have to grow every day until you die. Until you die, you have to grow every day. If I was the same person I was when I was 25 years old, now I'd be ashamed, and quite frankly, not even want to be alive. And I know a lot of people that are like that though. I know guys that I grew up with that are pushing 40 and still act the same way they did when they were like 23.
Wow.
So we've been
Yeah.
blessed. I'm telling you, man. So, I mean, but what other projects do you have? I mean, this is your main business. This is the only thing you're doing right now is this main business and the 100K growth thing, right? Or do you, are you dipped in? Are you
Yeah. I mean, a couple other things. I mean, go ahead.
No, you first.
Oh, yeah. I was just saying, like, I think similar like you. Like, I'm currently actually been learning a lot on just different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Learning a lot about the different styles of content that we could create. I've been like geeking out on this thing about like building SaaS, like building AI SaaS companies, like software companies.
Uh huh.
Those I like, you know what I mean? I was like, I took some like free courses here and there about like creating like no code SaaS. It's very interesting to me because I love like the AI space too. Like we use AI basically like every day on my company.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's kind of stuff I've been into. Uh yeah, traveling is sometimes like here and there depending on the month. I'm actually leaving the country next week. So
Oh,
that's
really?
a pretty fun one, visiting my family.
In,
What's that?
in Indonesia?
In Indonesia, yeah. It's my grandpa's 80th birthday. So gonna visit them.
Oh, good, good. I'm glad to hear. Are you traveling by yourself?
Just with family.
Oh,
So
oh,
gonna be there
cool.
for like 10 days. Yeah. But yeah, I'm just been like learning and just focusing on that goal. Actually last night spent some time in my some like my whiteboards over here, really just dialing down into like what are some essential tasks that I can do, kind of like what you said, right? Of like the most important things to do every day. That will just focus on those and blocking off everything else, and that way, like you can make sure that growth will happen day in and day out. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because and good luck to you next week when you go out of town.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I have never been in that part of the world. See, so I mean, maybe one day, but I have to do things for a purpose. You know,
Yeah, I told you. I mean, if you ever want to visit, let me know. I can get like it's
tips.
I I I think my move to the US have brought me. I think it's such an interesting perspective in terms of how people live around the world,
Mm-hmm.
and that's actually what I studied in college, was international business. And the difference in cultures, the difference how we do things. I find great value in seeing how other people's do it in the world, and because there's no one right way of doing things. Like if you see the people in Spain, they take naps in the middle of the day, and like
Yes.
they from 3 o'clock to like 5 o'clock. It's interesting.
Yeah, I went to Venezuela in 2001, many years ago, and they had the siesta. It was the it was the siesta, and that's where
Yeah,
they take a nap,
yeah,
which I had. It was 110 degrees when I was there. I had no problem with that. We were right on the equator, baby. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, dude, and was hoping they wouldn't think we were like lazy Americans, but I was like, no, I need to go to sleep. And then I'm looking on the streets and everybody's sleeping in their hammocks and tents and stuff like that. And no electricity. I was like, I'm good. I'm good. I need this nap. It's 100 degrees outside. If you're from America, you can't drink the water down there, or else it could, hurt you because you're not used to it. But so I'm like, man, I'm carrying like 10 packs of water
Right,
with.
right. 110 degrees is
Yeah, 10 bottles of water maybe lasted 3 hours. So I drank a lot of
wow.
water, and I don't remember going to the bathroom
That
after
should be
that.
an episode right there. Like, you,
Yeah,
oh wow,
yeah. No, it was something else. But
yeah.
I'll tell you, beautiful country as far as like you know how people kind of live. Like what we have so much here. We really do. We really do.
We do.
We have so much. I get I don't
Yeah.
judge people, but I get a little irritated when people like at a restaurant. If I go to a restaurant, they've run out of salt or something like that, and people make a huge deal about it. I'm like, that sounds like a first world problem to me. People in other countries are just trying to eat, and you're worried about there not being any salt on the food or there not enough seasoning on this particular item. Like this chicken doesn't shouldn't taste like this. I'm like, yeah, well, and people in other countries just want to have the chicken. They might not even eat it cooked.
That's right. Yeah, and that's kind of one of those perspectives that I think I wish a lot more people have, you know?
Yeah, we have a lot here, and a lot of it has to do with like a lot of it's youth and immaturity. But and quite frankly, you haven't put yourself in a
We've got it
situation where
good. Water that runs.
yeah, exactly. I mean, water that you can actually drink without dying. We've got it good here, and you can actually
Right.
drink. You can drink out of the sink here in America. You can't do that in many other places.
Not in like most countries, you can't do that. That's one of the things that I was so surprised about when I came here. I was like, "You can drink the water straight out of the tap?" I was like,
Yeah,
"No way. That's wild."
yeah. It's like what do they do to make that here? Come on, man.
I
But
know. What kind of engineering is this? This is fascinating.
yeah, exactly, man. You want to wrap this up?
Up to you, man. I'm good whenever.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? I want to do this again in a few months, if you don't mind, because I want to see
Yeah,
I want to see where you're at when we're way past day 32 and we can catch up again. But I want to do this again. But we can wrap it up today. And
man, this is awesome.
thank you.
Like, thank you for having me in this show. Like, this is, I really appreciate you for taking the time on a Sunday on a Memorial Day weekend to do this.
Oh, likewise. Thank you. And I was just glad to have you, man. But do me a favor, plug your stuff. Tell me what's going. Tell the name of your business out there.
Yeah. So, again, my name is Brandon. I run a company called Short Form Pros, and we help professional service businesses create content so that they can show up on more places that their customers are at. If you like the sound of that, just follow me on Instagram. It's at Brandon.Fortino. You can reach out to me there. And all the other platforms are the same. It's Brandon at Brandon.Fortino on TikTok, on YouTube. You can check it out there. But yeah,
Well, there you go. Well, that's what I'm talking about, man. Well, I'm gonna wrap this thing up, and I'll talk to you when we get done here in a sec. So, thank you to Brandon coming on here, man. I knew that it was gonna be a great show because he's such a good guy, and has a and I love watching his videos and stuff like that because it's he's got some pretty funny ones in there too that have good sense of humor and stuff like that too. So don't let the fact that he's a pretty serious businessman fool you, man. He's got a very lighthearted side to him. So, but thank you guys out there on this Memorial Day weekend for watching the Hank Russell Invitation. You could have been doing something else, but you decided to spend it with me. So thank you guys so much, and y'all have a pleasant evening.